and about what we're doing and learning and working on to make sure that we support what God is doing and to have the best structure possible. Really, the whole impetus is this. Our parish is growing, if you hadn't noticed. So our structure needs to evolve with this. Up till this last summer, it's basically been Father Patrick and me, and running around trying to do everything. And that's obviously not sustainable, and God has blessed us with wonderful, wonderful newcomers to our parish, wonderful newcomers to our staff team, and we've been working the last couple months to discuss how best can we organize, how best can we strategize division of roles and responsibilities, and what kinds of help do we need to best catch this momentum and support the ongoing growth of what God is doing in our parish. So just to give you a little taste of what this has looked like, lots and lots of Post-it notes. If you didn't know, I get easily excited by Post-it notes, and we had, 5 or 6 colors going at once. This is actually just a small taste. At our peak, we had 3 whiteboards, across the whole nursery, covered in Post-it notes, trying to organize and capture all of the things that go into running our church and all the activities, the ministries, the different tasks, how to capture all of that. Basically, we came up with this very simple structure that everything we do in our parish falls into one of these 3 areas. We have governance at the top, the oversight, the strategic vision, and this is really mostly like the parish council zone of the strategic planning, risk management, are we complying with what the Archdiocese expects of us? And everything under that, every time I downloaded it as a PowerPoint, and now the operations, it did look perfect. So everything under governance really divides into mission and operations, actually. So mission captures the why, what we're here for, what we're striving for, and those things include like our liturgical worship, pastoral care, our faith formation, which all of our education initiatives, parish life, outreach and evangelism, that kind of mission-driven activity. And then with that goes operation, and that's the infrastructure that supports all of that. The facilities, the finance, the administration, the communication, supporting our staff. And those 2 things, none of these 3 exist in isolation of each other. All of them overlap. And you can think that pretty much any of those activities that fall under mission come with corresponding operations. That any activity we do requires facilities and finances and communication and planning. And so those things really pair together well, even though we've categorized them separately. Everything we do exists in an intersection between these 3 things. And so based around that structure of that governance, mission, and operations became the underlying framework for how we were trying to organize our staff team, and then from that, how we organize our volunteers. So this is our proposed structure, really designed to give some clarity and direction and stability to all these different activities. And you can see that this whole structure, you can imagine the overlay of governance, mission, operations underneath it, where at the top we have our parish priest and our parish council giving really Father Patrick at the very top giving our overall spiritual and organizational leadership, setting the tone, setting the vision, setting the direction with kind of the assistance of the parish council. And under that, you can imagine the mission and operations becoming underneath it, our parish deacon, soon to be assistant priest, really supporting the priest and leading the mission, and the church administrator, me, leading the operations domain. And underneath it, we have you can imagine the team that goes under the administration. This is the newest thing in this division is adding a church secretary role, kind of separating the administrator, like a higher level administrator and a secretarial role to accomplish a lot of the day-to-day routine work so that that role can no longer just be me trying to do everything at both levels, but have a little more strategic focus and effective distribution of tasks. And underneath the administrator also comes like the parish deacon in facilities, managing the facilities and grounds, and our treasurer team and other teams under that. So does that make sense? We've got governance up at the top, mission and operations mapped out under our for our team.
Are there any questions?
I will take questions as we go. Yes, Susan.
Who makes up the parish council?
Should I list everyone? Okay, Marilyn Price is our chair, and then I hope I'm not going to forget everyone. Everyone on staff is also on the parish council, so that includes Jim Scarfani, Leah, me, and Deacon Jason, Jim Newberger, Micah Friedrich representing the school, Grant Cattell, Liam and Brian representing our treasury team, Bo Beasley. That feels like approximately the right number. So those represent leadership of different, you can see that those represent leaders in different branches of our ministry and operations, and that's our team. Any other questions before I move on? So the next chunk of my presentation are really going to focus on how that looks on the operations side of things, and then kind of zeroing in a little more on operations and zeroing a little more on mission and how those structures pan out. Really, our goal with the operations, specifically in dividing that administrator and secretarial role, but in all of these, how we're assembling the team, are for a couple core purposes. One, to have a more centralized leadership, having me be a central point representing, kind of providing oversight and alignment between all of these different administrative operations tasks. Augmented staffing, helping kind of take what I'm currently doing and give a much bigger team to help support all the different activities so that it's not just one person trying to catch everything in any of these areas. Proactive coordination, that having a better line of communication between Father Patrick and all the different things that are going on. And really strategic momentum that I have tended to live in and we as a team often live in firefighting mode of, what's the most important thing. And having an organized team like this will help us shift into more strategic and deliberate action where we're able to plan ahead and evaluate different priorities and be really consistent in what we're doing. Less reactive and more proactive. This is what it looks like broken down into people. So church administrator up at the top, and then the 5 different areas of operations. Communications, which I'm obviously still in part. Jim reminded me that I can yell at myself whenever I need to. The administration, which is really Leah. The finance team of Leah and Brian. Facilities and ground, Deacon Jason will be the main point person for that with his group underneath it. And staff support, or kind of HR functions, Jim Scarfani. Jim is also kind of advisor to the operations team right now as we're figuring all of this out. So he's been my right-hand man as we're figuring this out. The church secretary, again, that's that new role, and that the idea is that this person or this function supports both the operations team and kind of the church, the work that goes in to running the church, and also directly supports Father Patrick. I should have pointed that out a little more clearly when I gave this initial thing. You can see that the church secretary kind of has a dual hat role of supporting the parish priest, which means really helping Father Patrick run his schedule and manage and set up meetings and kind of keeping him organized with priorities for the day, and supporting the operations team in providing support in that way as well. And you can see this is not an exact list or exact plan, but the kinds of things that this person or this role does, providing clerical and office support, helping with record keeping, scheduling, communication, direct support, becoming another communication hub for the parish. In reality, we're not quite there yet. This is a little aspirational. We're working towards it. Leah's not here this morning, is she? Leah has been a tremendous blessing to our team. But Leah is very part-time and about to have a baby and the point person of the PLC. So in reality, this administrator secretary role is probably at least 1.5 roles, if not 2 full-time roles. So we're still splitting that between Leah and I, because both of us, in addition to those roles, have other projects and things that we're responsible at the time. So that's currently a big area that we're focusing on moving forward. We haven't reached a sustainable distribution of tasks or a full figuring out like how all of the people needed to run this well. So the next couple weeks and months we're going to be looking really creatively at what additional help we need, how we need to recruit, how we need to delegate, how we can get more people involved. Even people, like for example, like Holly Rhodes is taking over printing bulletins. And that is not a huge task or rocket science, but the relief of knowing someone is taking that small task is a huge benefit and blessing to Leah and I of not having to do that. So you can look out, we'll be communicating more clearly as we go as far as ways that we need help or ways that we're recruiting for more people to get involved. So that's kind of an overview of the changes and direction we're going, heading in the operations side of things. The rest of this presentation really focuses on the mission side of things, and this is some really exciting, probably the most exciting part of this presentation. So this is really centered on kind of based on having Deacon Jason now to provide assistance, kind of taking Father Patrick's vision and having Deacon Jason here to help carry that out to all of our ministries. We're working on how can we turn all of what we do. I think we have a list of around 40 different ministries. How can we provide a clear structure, workflow, regular, consistent meetings? How can we support our leaders? How can we support healthy growth in the future? And how can we kind of ensure alignment across everything that's happening in predictable cycles with the pastoral guidance, the pastoral support needed for all of our teams? This is what it looks like kind of broken up in those different areas. I mentioned them earlier, that under that missions bucket comes, liturgics and worship, comes pastoral care, faith formation, which includes, Sunday school and our school, parish life, all the different community activities we do, and outreach and evangelism. So we're coming up with a framework. How do we keep all of what's going on, all of the things happening in those 5 areas aligned and thriving and positioned to be able to continue to grow and evolve in the future? And we've come up with kind of 3 different layers of, it's not just 3 different layers of meetings, but kind of 3 different layers of initiatives to help support our team. So I'll go into more detail on those as we go, but just to real quick, one is deep dives with each ministry. Well, those are kind of ministry health meetings. 2 are monthly sync meetings with all of the ministries that kind of have overlapping responsibilities in our space and using our space. And staff connection, making sure that each ministry has a clear channel to get to for resources and help. So every ministry is going to have a staff person connected to them. So I'm going to go into a little more detail on each of those 3. The first, deep dives. So what we're doing is launching a rotation so that every ministry team meets with Deacon Jason and I, representing that mission and operations duo, that kind of binocular vision of what it takes to run our church. Meeting regularly with ministry leaders to provide a chance to check in on a deep level about how each ministry is doing, what are the challenges they're facing, what kind of resources do they need, what ideas do they have, what are some opportunities that we need to pivot in order to catch some momentum. How can we, those kind of regular points of what do you need to equip you to achieve your goals with this ministry, to nurture growth, and that kind of pattern. Not every ministry will need the same kind of level of frequency. So, but for example, maybe quarterly, 3 times a year, 2 times a year, depending on the level of ministry. But in any case, very routine and making that a regular part of our operations and mission rhythm. So those meetings will really be like the ministry leaders giving them a chance to share, the deacon representing the pastoral guidance with Father Patrick, and all of this will be done, of course, with Father Patrick's oversight and direction, and the administrator being there to help kind of capture what do we need from a resources, logistics, church communication perspective to make sure that any follow-up activity really happens. The second level is monthly coordination meetings. We're calling them sync meetings. There have been great debate over the names of each 3 of these. If you have creative ideas, feel free to submit. I reserve the right to pick my favorite, but we're at sync meetings right now. And the goal is that we have a lot of ministries that work very closely together in a very, our small space. And so those key ministries, these people don't know this yet, but you're going to get an email very soon. But things like, you can imagine, the ushers, the altar guild, the servers, Sunday school, the school, coffee hour, the hospitality and events, those teams that heavily use the space and have ministries that function really on top of each other. We're launching a kind of a short monthly meeting that will capture, like, let's look at the month ahead, let's review what are the big events coming, and make sure that we've identified any issues, that everything's covered, that if we have an ordination, that means we're canceling Saturday night mass, that means we need the ushers to be ready with more chairs, that means, all of these different things. So you can see that when it matters is especially intense liturgical seasons, preparing for Advent, Holy Week, etc., major parish events, and complex Sundays. And if you think of our church calendar, you would be hard-pressed to find a month where we don't have at least one or more of those things. So this is a constant need to make sure our teams are connected and coordinating really tightly and efficiently. So this will ensure a coherent parish experience, no dropped balls, making sure that things don't fall through the cracks, and also that there's no duplication of efforts, and that there's smooth handoffs, strong pastoral and organizational support. Everyone knows what's going on. And the goal is for those to, literally be a 30-minute meeting with a tight agenda so that we can just check in and make sure things are going smoothly and that we're prepared for what's coming up. Lastly is the staff contact, and this is really the name that has had the most heavy debate. So if you have another idea, we've gone from touch point to point of contact to staff contact, still collecting ideas. And this is really just so you can imagine that each ministry is going to have a regular, quarterly meeting with Deacon and I to talk about that deep dive. But there's a lot of life that happens in between each quarter. So every ministry is going to have a person on staff assigned to them so that they know that if they have an issue, an idea, a red flag, need help really quickly, anything coming up, they know that they can go straight to their staff contact for support, direction, help, brainstorming, and that person and that they will ensure quick responsive action from the staff team as needed. So this will, I hope, add clarity and kind of a feeling of safety for every ministry leader, that they always know where to go if they have something they need to talk through or an issue that comes up. And this will go both ways too, that if the staff team is aware of something over here that impacts the ministry over here, that there's a clear line of communication going in both directions to all the ministry leaders. We just had a meeting a couple days ago finalizing those assignments. So if you're a ministry leader, you're going to receive an email from me this week letting you know who your person is, so that that's effective immediately. We're starting that. And most of those the staff contact is either me or Deacon Jason or Leah. Jim has one. He's the cemetery guy. There, you've had that spoiler. Hannah, did you have a question? Oh. Okay. And really, the whole big picture of this, we've really focused on missions and administration. And you see the top of that is governance. And really, a lot of these changes are to provide support to better position Father Patrick to do what he does best, so that he gets more freedom and more flexibility to focus on pastoral care, to focus on his, the materials he's working on, to be flexible in his availability. So it's allowing him, kind of giving him more cushion to focus on leading us really well. So we're trying to provide him with direct lines of support so that he knows that all of these things are being covered, and so that he can have very clear lines of communication in every direction needed, so that there's kind of providing a structure of coordination, and really like giving him space to be his artistic-driven, visionary self, and how to support that well. So let's see if there's anything else. But yes, giving him space and flexibility and peace of mind to focus on our mission and on his role in our lives. So just to sum everything up, why we're doing this, we think that these structures are really important in general, just to support what God is doing in our parish, and specifically that gives us more clarity in both accountability and support. Those two things go together, that it's being able to say we have a goal that we're working towards, and these are the steps we need to take to actually make sure that this happens. It gives a better strategic focus for our clergy and our leadership to focus on not having to worry about day-to-day operations and focus fully on his primary pastoral vocation. It really adds a new level of support for our mission and our ministries, of making sure that our leaders are taken care of, that making sure that that they have what they need for this to be sustainable and stable over the coming years. I just spoiled my punchline for the last ones, but sustainability for the future, that a more balanced workload in our staff and better support for our leaders really keys us up for stability in the long run, so that we can have a healthy and flourishing parish and sustain, continued growth as God leads us. So that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone we are going to be sharing, you can imagine you're going to get a lot more information on all of these things in the coming weeks. You can expect, ministry leaders can expect an email really soon with kind of your contact person, and also we're already starting to schedule some of those meetings and get things on the calendar. We will be going into, I think the annual meeting will give us another opportunity to go into more specifically on some of the things we need from you in order for this to work well. Things where gaps we're seeing, or how we need to plug people in. So the annual meeting will probably come with more information as well. But at this point, in this kind of high-level overview, does anyone else have any questions or thoughts? Yes?
Can you just clarify with the secretary thing? Were you saying Leah is the church secretary, or she's kind of stepping more out of that and looking for someone else?
We're figuring that out. So right now, Leah is in that role, like she's performing a lot of those functions, but she doesn't have the ability to perform all of those functions. And with the baby and the PLC coming, there's a lot of uncertainty as to what her availability will look like in the future. So even at her current availability, we need more help, and depending on how that changes, we may need more help.
She has all the right skills, but the time is the issue, so we
Right.
get enough time.
Right, exactly. So that's something we're working on as a team to figure out exactly what that looks like and exactly what we need. And you will get more updates as we have more concrete answers to that.
Really briefly, because since you brought that up, we had a meeting Friday with 5 people with Leah, because she's been having a baby. And thus far, I would step in for at least 6-7 weeks to cover PLC while she's out, just to reassure you.
Yes, the PLC is going, the PLC is obviously a huge focus. Yeah. Robin?
Do you use any project management software? And if so, what?
We are not using any specific software at the moment. I think we are open to it and have looked at it. Right now we're using lots of different spreadsheets and tracking systems. I think in my experience, most tools have required more work to maintain. then they actually provide benefit. But we are open to other tools. We just aren't currently using one.
So for workflow and project management, right now you're like using Excel and so forth?
Yes, yes. Stephanie?
And Father said sticky notes.
Lots of post-it notes. I have a whole stash now in multiple sizes. Steph?
My question is just out of curiosity. Normally when people go looking for models to design something, it'll closely match something they encounter out there in online. But this looks unique. It looks very organized. And so I'm curious to know whose ideas, who contributed, how did this come about, how did it emerge, how did it come together?
Sure. No, that's a great question. We had our staff team working on kind of brainstorming, and Micah Friedrich and Jim Scrifani also acted as kind of business consultants for this process and continue to act as consultants for this process, bringing some of their experience as well. And I think Jim brings a lot of perspective from his work experience, Micah from her long time in this church. And the goal has been to take both kind of best practices we see in other places, but also really tailor it for exactly what's happening at our church, to kind of marry the two of that kind of an ideal structure with what's actually practical and realistic for us. So that's, yes.
I'm sorry, I need to cut you off. I want to answer that question when you're all done with the questions.
Oh, great.
I mean, you can keep talking, but I'm going to address it.
Okay. More to come.
I just have one follow-up comment. So I'm taking a class right now that teaches the individual to do this. And it struck me as there's a lot of similarities between what you're describing and what I'm learning. So it involves, stuff that an individual would care about to help their own mind, body, become integrated and have clarity and construct, workflows for yourself so that you're doing what God wants you to do. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah. And for us, the Post-it notes is we're joking about it, but in a sense, this process started by brainstorming everything going on in this church, all of the different roles and jobs and people, and how do we kind of lump that into groups? How do we organize it? And Jim wouldn't want me to say this, but he was majorly a huge spearhead in helping crystallize that organization and come up with some really excellent suggestions for how to take that crazy mass of Post-it notes and make it really simple and easy to understand.
Are you all planning on sharing the slides?
Yes, we'll send out the slides. Other questions before I turn it over to Father?
Is there a call to action here for us, or is it more just you informing us?
This is kind of a soft launch. Obviously, there's call to actions for ministry leaders to be aware of, kind of be ready for the coming communications. And we haven't fully taken some of those areas of need and turned that into clear calls to action. But that's going to come, especially I think by the annual meeting, we'll have some clearer calls to action. This is mostly, I think my call to action for you today was to be excited and I know that for me, this presentation gives me a sense of excitement and relief, of feeling that this structure brings some stability and clarity and really represents a lot of exciting things happening in our parish. So my goal, that was what I wanted you to walk away with from this, is to be excited about what God is doing and that sense of relief that we're doing this together and we're working really hard to make sure it's sustainable. But clearer action items to come.
And we have a pretty robust internal set of actions. So we have a 45-day implementation plan. And so behind the scenes, the hamsters are doing this.
Any other questions before you're, and please, even if you don't think of questions, please feel free to keep sending us questions and getting in touch as we go through this process.
Sorry.
Again.
I'm sure I can speak on behalf of everyone, just expressing how grateful we are for all you have done. And over, more than we probably were able to do. And but you've stuck with it and gotten us to this point. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, on that note, do you want to take it?
I also want to express my gratitude towards all of these folks that have been working really hard. Katie and Jim and Micah and Leah and I don't know who else did Deacon Jason, yeah. I'm worried about him getting too big for his britches on Sunday, so I don't want to say too many nice things about him. Where is he in here? Oh, really? So he didn't even come. He thinks now he didn't have to show up because he's going to be a priest. It starts already. You know, every time I gave somebody at the shop a raise, every single time, the next day they show up late. I know. So, there are just a few things I want to say. 2 years, this is really timely. Really shockingly timely. 2 years or so ago, when we were making great progress towards the new property and the church build and the design and everything, and we were given complete green lights from everybody, and it just couldn't have looked any better, we got sucker punched. I mean, literally sucker punched one night by a guy, and our heads just were spinning. And we didn't know what was going on. So we regrouped, and we were growing and everything, and I think I said to the pair, I said, you know what? It's going to be okay. You know what we need to do? This will take some time. God's going to work this out. Whatever happens is fine. What we need to do is we need to shift our attention from brick and mortar construction, and we need to shift our attention towards developing the eternal structure of the ministry in the community. Exactly what you're witnessing. And so we decided that's what God's calling us to focus on. Because if we build a nice big church and we don't have all of this straightened out, it just implodes. It's not going to function right. And so we shifted all of our attention, and everybody got to work, and we started giving a lot of attention to these things. And here we are. It's almost like I went to sleep and I woke up, and here we are. And this week, we're going to the hearing this week. So this is really, I didn't even put all that together. This is really interesting. I really see the hand of God in all of this. And I think that if we will be faithful to what he's called us to, he will be faithful to us. And he will pour out his blessing upon us, and he will equip us and give us everything that we need to do the work he's called us to do. And our food is to do his work. As Christ says, my food is to do the work of the Father in heaven. And that's our food as well. So that's where we're going to derive our joy and our enthusiasm and our strength in this life, is by doing that work. Secondly, I'd like to say that I asked them to present this, and you might initially say, what is this? We've been talking about culture for a very long time now. Just gave 3 lectures on Ruskin, Christopher Alexander, several on him, and we're going to talk maybe about David Jones if we have time. This is totally Christopher Alexander right here. That's what this is. And Christopher Alexander wasn't just an urban planner and architect. He actually designed the internet. He didn't design the internet, but a lot of his work about structure and systems are the foundation for a lot of what we have with computer software programs and stuff. And I think Bill Waldrop told me when he was doing computer engineering, they were assigned a pattern language. That was one of the books that they had read, and he had it sitting on his shelf, and after we talked, he had never read it, and he ran home and read it after we had our lecture series. But we're talking about building things, making things, and everything that exists has a structure. It's parts that create a whole. And when those parts are functioning beautifully in relation to one another to create a unified whole, that's what we call beauty. That's why God's beautiful, because the 3 persons, there's unity in diversity and unity out of diversity. 3 persons, 1 God. We have 1 community, 1 loaf, 1 Lord Jesus Christ, 1 baptism, and many persons in this community making that 1 body. It's the meaning of everything. And that's what you're witnessing here. You're witnessing something about all these components and parts that make up this community, that make up and it's a cultural issue, to answer Stephanie's question. So Jim and Katie and Micah and Leah and Deacon Jason, they all have areas of expertise that came into play in terms of helping to work this out and lay it out and order it and make it work well. And that's all necessary and important to have those areas of expertise. But what makes it special is that, you know, like Alexander says, you have to go out, and if you're going to put a fence in, you have to go out in the field, and you have to see the lay of the land, you have to see where the water is flowing down, you have to see where the drainage is, you need to see where the tree line is and how this all fits in the lay of the land. That's the culture. And so all of this was done not according to some corporate template at all. Like, we don't really, you know, I mean, everybody has experiences, and they had some expertise in some things, but that's not what it was. This was organized and put together according to the culture that exists in this community. And the culture is just another word for, another word for community. We're going to be talking about this at our PLC, actually. And we've defined, the keynote is the culture of community. So for community to be thriving and be community, it has to have a culture. And for it to be a thriving community, it has to be a healthy culture and a creative culture. And so to create something like this, it has to, if it's going to be meaningful and inspiring and enjoyable and life-giving and beautiful, it has to flow out of a culture, something that's real and already present. And that's where it comes from. And that's the most important part. You know, we can get, you know, they're smart and, you know, they all went to school. I'm just a chicken farmer, I don't know anything, but, you know, they brought all their expertise, which is great. But the most important thing was that their life is sown into this community, and they brought the whole culture of our community to bear on putting this together. So it's a beautiful thing, and this is right in line with everything we've been talking about, really. And really, I'm shocked, actually, today. This just all just kind of came together that 2 years ago, we realized we couldn't start laying bricks or digging holes, and we said, well, we need to work on the structure, not brick and mortar, but the structure of the community. And here we are 2 years later, and we're really at a watershed moment, and our hearing is on Thursday. So that's pretty exciting. Okay, what time is it? 1:15. Okay, we just got, if you have any questions for me at all, I'm happy to answer them, or okay, good. Do you want to, how many slides of that do you have?
So I have the big one, and then two, I have this,
Okay.
this.
Okay, go back to the main one. All right, real quick, I just got just a minute. The Kennedys were so kind. They took Carrie and I, had wanted to, he was very excited about this, and we had just watched a documentary on it. And it's a mosaic found, it's, what was the date? I don't see, I didn't remember to, really? Early 200s. It's a floor mosaic. I was not prepared to talk about this, but it's right here. So I want to go ahead and do it because we have a minute or two. That they discovered in Israel. Where was it? Oh my gosh, I apologize. Megiddo. And there's a great documentary you can watch. What's so important about this? One of the things I wanted to point out about it. We went down and saw it. It's at the Bible Museum on loan. I don't know how much longer it'll be there. But there are, first of all, it's a work of art. There was a lot of investment, it was expensive, it was costly to produce this. And we're talking, this was a time of persecution. We actually looked it up, and there were people being killed around this time for their faith. Diocletian was the emperor at the time. So there's an inscription on the floor too, and it's fascinating to see the inscriptions. How do I? Okay. Gaianos, also called Porphyrius, centurion. So the centurion actually paid for this, a Roman centurion, and put his name in it, which is kind of dangerous. Our brother, so he's a Christian centurion, has made the mosaic at his own expense as an act of generosity. That's significant, that this work of art was done by presumably probably a poor community who were under persecution, whose lives were in danger for their faith, and they actually made the effort to pull something like this off in those conditions. I think that's significant. So what does that tell you about them? Because we get a different image, of the early church today. They valued the art and the beauty of this piece in honor of God enough to spend the money, and, that could have gone a lot of other places. It could have gone to feed the poor. It could have gone to support, Christians in prison, which we should be doing both of those things, obviously. But that did not preclude them deciding to put this mosaic floor in. So it's interesting. So we make assumptions sometimes that this is really, so not only that, but in a time of persecution where people were being killed for their faith, this Roman centurion has his name inscribed. And then on top of that, the artist, which really surprised me. I don't know if that was normal. I was shocked, actually. I would have thought that the artists were kind of, not really, like they wouldn't have been recognized at that time. So I don't know what the tradition is, but Brutius has carried out the work. So his name is on the work. And then, this is the oldest physical inscription referring to Jesus Christ as God in existence that we have. Older than the scriptures, because we don't have any of the original script autographs. So this is the oldest physical, actual writing that declares Jesus Christ as God.
Was this discovered recently?
It was discovered, yes, not like a year or two ago, but like 12, I can't remember. Does anybody remember? It wasn't like 100 years ago, and it wasn't 2 years ago. It was fairly recent. Maybe it was 10 or 12 years ago. You can look it up, I can't remember. Huh? 05, okay, 2005. The God-loving Akiptos has offered the table to God. There was also an altar there. Because there's some people, some Christians say they didn't have altars in the early church. There's clearly an altar there. And then, yeah, and there's a woman, yes. To God, Jesus Christ, the table to God, Jesus Christ, as a memorial. And then there's a list of women's names who were behind all of this, because for anything worthy, there's a woman behind it somewhere. So the men are all off watching the game and drinking beer, and the women are working hard and getting stuff done. So these are the women's names that are also, and we just celebrated the Mass for Dorothea. I'm not saying it's the same one, but the same name. We just had commemorated her the other day, interestingly enough. Anyway, I want to show this to you in the light of some of our beautification and the things that we're doing here. And I think that from your response to the work we've been doing, it's been a huge success and important and the right thing to do. And we're not done. We're getting ready to go into phase 2, which is going to be even more fun. And so you're going to start seeing some more things, and we're going to need help with all of that. With anybody who's able to help, we need that help. Along with all of this, with the building, the county, this internal development of our structure and ministry, the beautification of the building, our talks about culture, and all of this, we are going to be soon, and our upcoming annual meeting, which is going to help tie all this together. We are also going to be unveiling or talking more about the foundation that we've started, the Lorica Heritage Foundation. So I know I told you that was coming, and it's close. It's just that we were having so much time talking about Ruskin and Alexander that seemed important to talk about them as laying some groundwork for that. So in the weeks to come, we'll talk about the foundation, and there's some really exciting things going on with that as well. And so I'm really excited about with that, and we have people who are working very hard and very excited. So I just need, what I need from you, I need all of you to try and be as holy as you can. Everybody comes up to me like, what do you need? What do you need? I'm like, I need you to be holy, Brian. That's what Brian's always asking. Father, whatever you need, I'll do it. I said, just be holy. That'll go a long way. And it will. I have to explain what I mean by that, but I'm serious, actually. People are watching us. And, we need to just be who we are, and it's gonna have an impact. That was kind of enigmatic, but anyway. All right, I guess we should say goodbye for the day, and we got to figure out what to do with Deacon Jason when he's a priest. I don't know what we're going to do with him.
I told him our whole family would be going to him for confession.
Oh, really? Oh. I don't know if he'll be allowed to hear confessions for a while.
Really?
Yeah, I'll have to ask the bishop. Yeah, sometimes they don't let new priests hear confessions for a while. Yeah. But maybe we'll make a special exception. Yes. Yes. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Katie and Jim and Micah.